This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. Tasmania's gaming industry is calling into question independent modelling, revealing the number of people employed through poker machines. A new report shows 317 positions are directly related to the machines, as the industry claims more than 5,000 jobs are on the line under Labor's policy.
The campaign continues for Tasmania's hospitality industry. A fear of job losses, the central argument for keeping poker machines in pubs and clubs.
Immediately in pubs and clubs alone, there's over 1,000 jobs that will go straight away, and there's up to 5,100 at risk in the whole industry. That includes casinos.
It's a figure in stark contrast to the latest independent social and economic impact study. The report, conducted every 3 years, reveals just 317 full-time positions are directly involved with poker machines.
They've based it on FTE numbers. Over 70% of the people in the hospitality industry employed are casuals. That means they're employed anywhere from 5 hours a week to 35 hours a week.
We know that number grossly understates the figure. It's an academic exercise to try and attribute fractions of people's jobs, and we don't think that's appropriate.
Previous reports focused on employees holding gaming licences, a method not differentiating between those working in other gaming areas such as keno and lotteries. Without FTE modelling by the industry to compare current figures, the exact number of job losses under Labor's policy to remove them remains unclear.
I think it's up to the voters to decide who they want to listen to. I'm telling you, we've surveyed our members. We've got the data that tells us the impact it's going to have on venues and the impact it's going to have on staff.
What I'm saying as Treasurer is that they are best placed to make those claims. They are at the coalface.
Labor says revenue not going into the machines is money flowing back to the community.
Keeping $110 million in the state of Tasmania, in our local communities, will create jobs.
The report revealing problem gambling slightly increased since 2013, the majority using poker machines.
We estimate that at least 8 other people are affected for every single problem gambler, so the effect on our community is actually much greater.
And we know from this report that half the money spent on poker machines in Tasmania is coming from at-risk and problem gamblers.
A report set to fuel the debate as the election draws closer. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
Police have caught a motorcyclist travelling at more than 200 kilometres per hour on the Bass Highway late yesterday. The rider, a 23-year-old from Bishopsbourne near Longford, was spotted going almost double the speed limit at Westbury. The rider has been charged with a number of offences, including evading police. His black Honda motorbike has been seized for 6 months. Newly re-elected Glenorchy Mayor Christy Johnston says her first priority will be rebuilding trust in the council. Ms Johnston reclaimed her position in a landslide victory, securing almost 87% of votes. It's following a controversial 3.5 years under the previous council, resulting in a Board of Inquiry report and several recommendations.
I'm confident that we can actually start to move into the space where we see good things happening in Glenorchy again, and we can actually start kicking some goals.
I've spoken to the Mayor today that I'll be sitting down with her and the new council in coming weeks to talk about those recommendations and some directions that will flow directly from it.
Matt Stevenson has been declared Deputy Mayor. The final makeup of the council will be announced tomorrow. The state's infrastructure minister has announced planning is now underway for a light rail system in Hobart's northern suburbs. Reen Hidding says his government will pull out all stops to make the project a reality, following yesterday's signing of a Hobart City deal.
That work starts today. Essentially, as a government, we will now engage with the federal government on building a business case for the northern suburbs light rail here in Hobart. It's very exciting.
The numerous studies done to date have shown 6 million trips a year on the Hobart rail and thousands of jobs generated during construction and long-term jobs due to all the commercial and residential developments that will occur around the stations.
The project's expected to take 5 years to complete. A total fire ban has been issued for the state's south and parts of the north tomorrow. Dry conditions have firefighters on alert, with temperatures predicted to go into the 30s.
Ready for action, the Tasmania Fire Service says aircraft, firefighters and machinery will be deployed to high-risk areas tomorrow. All of the state's south, along with the Break of Day and the Northern Midlands districts, will be on a total fire ban, imposing a number of restrictions on the public.
We want them not to light a fire in the open. If they've had fires previously on their property, we want them to be checked, and including campfires.
The TFS is acting on advice from the Weather Bureau.
The worst conditions we're expecting to be inland in the southeast, so we have issued a fire weather warning for the Upper Derwent Valley and for the Midlands forecast districts.
A hot northerly airflow is expected to pass across the state.
And that hot air is moving down from mainland Australia, so we are expecting quite hot conditions right across the state.
Even gardening can be risky in these conditions.
Even today we had people using a whippersnipper that caused a fire, so we want people to take great care using those mechanical devices.
The 24-hour total fire ban begins at midnight tonight, but it could extend until Friday. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
FOMA is set to descend on Hobart this week, with the Quirky Festival kicking off festivities in its hometown. Organisers say visitors are in for a bumper ride, with the wild, weird and wonderful set to draw in thousands.
Relaxing for all ages, these pink pods are hanging draw card for FOMA festival goers.
It's a very simple thing, you're really just lying back and relaxing and letting your heart do all the work.
These scarves sensing participants' heart rates, which are then played in tune over these speakers.
What tends to happen is that as people hear each other's heartbeats, it creates a musical piece, and the heartbeats tend to go into synchronisation through this phenomenon that's a little bit mysterious called entrainment.
The project's sound engineer created music inspired by its current location at Brook Street Pier, right on Hobart's waterfront.
For this one in particular, I was kind of interested in the sea or the water nearby, and so there's that kind of element that's in the background sound.
And it's the discovery aspect of it that's the most interesting thing about FOMA.
At the Mona site, things are ramping up, with organisers preparing for what's set to be a bumper few days.
And there will be hundreds of artists traipsing up and down on that stage over the weekend starting on Friday. It takes a small army to put on a festival of this magnitude.
Organisers expecting to host around 4,500 visitors here on the Mona grounds from Friday. And in the evenings, thousands more will descend on Hobart's waterfront for FOMO.
It's like a festival within a festival this year. It's also a mixture of local and international and acts from that place we call the so-called mainland.
The festivities kick off on Friday. Punters advised to buy tickets before they sell out. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
50 years after showing its last film, Launceston's historic Star Theatre is only weeks away from reopening its doors to the public. After nearly a year of restoration, those behind the project say they're uncovering the secrets of Tasmania's cinematic past.
This is where the first flicks will be shown of the Star Theatre's second incarnation. A giant state-of-the-art screen is ready to be installed, while the classic Art Deco design has been restored.
It feels like we've gone from being a building site to almost being a theatre now.
Ben Davis is one of the makeover's masterminds, spending the best part of a year bringing this theatre back to life. But when it's done, you'll still be able to sit back in time.
We've got some of the old seats from the Princess Theatre, got some from the Majestic, a few from the Star, and some from other smaller cinemas around Tassie. So we'll really try to celebrate a few seats from every theatre so people can come and sit in them, try them out and see what it would have been like back in the day.
That isn't the only theatrical throwback Ben's uncovered.
So these are original Star Theatre posters.
They travelled with the film reel around the state, reaching some cinemas months after their original release.
This was a movie with Steve McQueen in it. So we've got here Star Theatre Tasmania, first to be shown in Invermay, then off to Burnie, down to Devonport, coming back through Westbury and Deloraine, and to finish off at the Paragon in Queenstown.
The original Star Theatre's heyday was between the 1930s and the 1960s. Back then, it was so popular, patrons had to have a week-by-week reservation just to secure a seat.
I ain't gonna miss anything. I'll beat you there, bub.
But whether a Steve McQueen classic makes the cut on opening night remains to be seen.
We'll certainly have a current release, maybe some international film, a children's film and also something from back in the day, so it'll be a good blend of films.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A new partnership deal could see Bridgestow lavender products sold throughout China via an online shopping space. Importers today visiting the farm for the first time, excited to sell the Tasmanian items with the prospect of attracting more tourists to the state.
These products could soon be available to Chinese consumers at the click of a button.
Bringing the whole series of Bridgestone lavender estate products into the market. So essentially this is to create a digital online shopping front for the Chinese consumer.
And popular products like Bobby the Bear topping the list.
It really does appeal to females, particularly in China. And once it appeals to females, males have to buy them to please the females.
With more than half the farm's visitors from China, the exports are set to only bring in more.
We're seeing export product go to China with Tasmania's brand on it, which encourages more people from China to come and visit. But when you see such a strong trade coming from Bridgestow, we know that that's going to be translating to direct return for northern Tasmania.
China sees this as romantic, and it's not the classic hearts and flowers romance, it's the romance of the soul that comes from gorgeous scenery and fresh air and wonderful lavender.
A sea of purple attracting people from all around the world. There's been a record-breaking crowd of more than 1,000 visitors per day over the past month, and it takes more than 70 staff to keep up with the demand.
It's been an amazing season. We've seen visitor numbers like we've never seen before, and we'd say up 15% on last year, which is fairly bold.
They are expecting 85,000 visitors this financial year alone. Rita Risk, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market closed in the red, dragged down by the materials sector, heavily sold down on shifting commodity prices and expectations of a market correction. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 32.8 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 79.47 US cents and 109.79 New Zealand cents.
Cricket, and the Hobart Hurricanes may be without one of their biggest weapons come Big Bash finals, with Darcy Short likely to be called up into the national T20 squad. BBL semi-finals begin on February 1, with the national side to meet in Sydney on January 31, ahead of their clash against New Zealand on February 3. The squad is set to be announced next week. Short has been in blistering form this tournament, setting the records for highest individual and total runs scored. The Canes take on the Strikers in Adelaide tonight, chasing their 6th win in a row. Will Clark has cemented himself as a contender for this year's Tour Down Under, securing 2 sprint wins during day 2. The young Tasmanian even leading overall at one stage of the race, but in the end it was Aussie Caleb Ewan who crossed the line first. A familiar sight to day 1, with Tasmanians Will Clark and Scott Bowden among 4 riders gunning for King of the Mountain honours. Bowden bowing out of the climb.
Not a good time to call for water, I wouldn't have thought, Scott, but everybody to his own choice.
South African Nicholas Lamini finishing just ahead of Clark for the 2nd day in a row.
Will Clark is a fast finisher, the Tasmanian, and he's much bigger than the climber, but hey, hats off.
Clark and Bowden then enjoyed a 4-minute lead from the peloton along the 150-kilometre stage from Unley to Stirling, before Clark put the burners on to claim the first sprint and a crucial 3-second time bonus, shifting him just 1 second behind overall leader Andre Greipel.
Scott Bowden also going to challenge, but I think that's good enough. 3 seconds for Will Clark.
The Tasmanian then making it 2 from 2 for the day, with Bowden hot on his heels.
So far, so good for Will Clark. He is now officially the leader of this race on the road.
The pair rejoining the peloton with 70 kilometres to race, with Spaniard Jamie Castrillo maintaining the breakaway and entering Stirling first. Trying to keep his hopes of back-to-back Tour wins alive, Richie Port nestled in towards the front of the pack. Steve Morabito had to have his shoulder pop back in following the day's only crash, as the peloton closed the gap on Castrillo. In the end, it was an Aussie who crossed the line first.
Caleb Ewan is going to make a tap to the line, and on the finish we said he couldn't win, he just did it. Unbelievable.
Ewan also securing the overall Oka Leaders jersey with the time bonus.
I've done this circuit before, so I know when I can relax and when I need to be at the front, so
The boys knew the same thing, and we relaxed when we could, and then we went hard when we needed to.
But it was the young Tasmanian's gutsy ride that got the commentators talking post-race.
Big Will Clark has got a big engine. He's a big guy. Lots of focus, lots of commitment, and he's gone out there. And you know what? Wouldn't surprise me if he's out the front again tomorrow.
Racing continues tomorrow with a 146-kilometre stage from Glenelg to Victor Harbour.
Good evening. Here are today's important numbers. Hobart and Devonport 21, Launceston 25 and Burnie 22. Bushy Park warmed up a bit, reaching 30 today, and along with Ouse recorded the state's top. Fingal and Cressy 28, Flinders Island and Grove 26, Campania 25, Friendly Beaches and St Helens 23 today, Lowhead, Wynyard and Strawn 22 and Flinders Island 21. That's a good set of numbers. A fair bit of cloud is on the chart. Now that's through and off over the Tasman Sea, won't worry us anymore. A little low cloud is with that high over the Bight. Afternoon storm activity is over the tropics. Closer in and small amount of low cloud was seen over the northeast, but most of the state clear today. Tomorrow a skinny high stretches from our region up to southern Queensland. A cold front moves over the Bight, an inland trough is over Western Australia, and the monsoon trough is off the far northwest of the nation. Winds for our waters mostly northerly and up to 25 knots down the east coast, northeast northwesterly winds to 20 knots over the south. A fire weather warning is current for the Midlands and Upper Derwent Valley. A very high fire danger is expected for most districts, and as you may have heard earlier in the bulletin, a total fire ban has been issued for the state's south, along with the Break of Day and Northern Midlands Council areas. Now for Hobart, hot and sunny, warming up to 31 tomorrow, 30 for Cygnet and 35 for New Norfolk. Launceston, hot and mostly sunny, 30 the top, 23 for Devonport, hot and sunny for Campbelltown with 31 the maximum. Burnie, mostly sunny and 24, warm for Strawn, 30 and 25 for Smithton, and for St Helens, sunny and 29, reaching 30 at Swansea and 32 at Fingal. UV 13 and extreme, so please enact your UV protection measures. On Friday, hot over the northeast with fresh and gusty northwest winds, a shower over the west and far south, and maybe a thunderstorm later over the east. Plenty going on. A morning shower for the east on Saturday, a warm cloudy day mostly with an evening shower over the north, and on Sunday showers over parts of the north, clearing for a period, fine and cloudy for the rest of the state. Possible morning drizzle in Perth tomorrow, hot and sunny in Adelaide, fine also in Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane. Mostly clear and 17 in Hobart, 22 in Launceston and clear and 19 right now in Devonport. Joe?
And that's all from the news team for now. Thanks so much for your company. We'll see you a little later with updates. Bye-bye.